welcome back. I'm glad you've returned to the silence. We leave the familiar behind to witness the silent beauty of the cosmos as we begin our long, drifting journey toward the distant realm of Saturn, where a tiny, brilliant moon named Enceladus waits in the quiet dark. Far beyond the warming rays of our sun, past the rocky worlds and the asteroid belt, the solar system transforms into a vast expanse of gas and ice. Out here, the light is pale and gentle, casting long, fading shadows across the magnificent rings of the gas giant. Nestled within those sweeping bands of crushed ice and ancient dust, a small sphere reflects the distant starlight with astonishing clarity. This is a world entirely encased in a shell of pristine, frozen water, making it one of the brightest objects in our stellar neighborhood. It appears at first glance as a quiet, frozen wasteland, a silent marble suspended in the endless void of space. Yet, beneath that brilliant white surface lies a restless heart, a hidden ocean of liquid water warmed by immense invisible forces. We are drawn to this remote icy frontier to uncover the secrets hidden beneath its frozen crust, where towering plumes of vapor and frost erupt into the vacuum of space. As we drift closer to its glittering surface, the true nature of this remarkable moon begins to reveal itself, inviting us to look past the stillness and discover the profound energy stirring in the deep. Approaching this remarkable moon, the sheer brightness of its landscape commands our attention, a dazzling expanse that mirrors almost all the sunlight that manages to reach these outer depths. Because it reflects nearly 100% of the light it receives, the temperature on the surface plunges to a staggering minus 330 degrees Fahrenheit, creating an environment that feels permanently locked in a profound and unforgiving freeze. The terrain below is a mesmerizing tapestry of contrasting histories, where heavily cratered plains in the northern hemisphere speak of ancient cosmic collisions, while the southern regions display vast, smooth stretches of ice that seem completely untethered from the ancient past. It was only when robotic explorers ventured close enough to peel back the layers of this mystery that scientists realized the southern hemisphere was constantly repaving itself with fresh snow from a hidden internal source. This revelation shifted our understanding of the outer solar system, proving that a world completely encased in ice could still possess a dynamic and ever-changing geography that continues to evolve to this day. Gliding gracefully over the southern pole, the smooth white plains give way to a spectacular network of deep, parallel fractures known affectionately as the tiger stripes. These immense chasms stretch for over 80 miles across the frozen landscape, glowing with a faint, unexpected heat against the absolute cold of the surrounding crust. The fractures are bordered by towering ridges, painted in subtle hues of pale green and blue, starkly contrasting the blinding white snow that blankets the rest of the moon. Deep within these glowing crevices, the crust is constantly flexing and pulling apart, driven by the relentless gravitational tug of war exerted by the massive bulk of Saturn. As the giant planet pulls on the tiny moon during its elliptical orbit, the tidal forces generate an enormous amount of friction, turning the subterranean rock and ice into a geological engine of incredible power. It is here, within these warm and glowing scars on the southern pole, that the true magic of this ocean world is continuously unleashed upon the silent void. From the depths of these winding canyons, a magnificent display of cosmic power erupts into the vacuum of space, defying the stillness of the outer system. Powerful jets of water vapor, mixed with tiny ice crystals and complex molecular structures, shoot upward from the tiger stripes at breathtaking speeds. Pushing through the vents at over 800 miles per hour, These geysers create a towering canopy of frost that reaches hundreds of miles above the jagged and broken surface. Because the moon is incredibly small, possessing only a tiny fraction of the gravitational pull of our own planet, a large portion of this erupting material easily escapes into the surrounding darkness. This continuous spray of crystalline ice does not simply vanish into nothingness, but instead gathers in a sweeping orbit to weave the delicate, shimmering fabric of Saturn's outermost ring. The realization that a moon barely 300 miles across is actively feeding a massive planetary ring system remains a testament to the astonishing interconnectedness of celestial bodies in our cosmic neighborhood. Watching these silent fountains from orbit offers a profoundly humbling perspective on the hidden vitality of the cosmos, reminding us that even the coldest environments harbor intense and continuous activity. The plumes are illuminated from behind by the distant sun, creating a majestic halo of glowing mist that stands in stark contrast to the pitch-black canvas of deep space. Tiny particles of frozen water catch the scattered light, twinkling like suspended diamonds as they dance along the invisible and sweeping currents of the local magnetic field. When humanity directed the Cassini spacecraft to purposefully fly directly through this towering spray, the instruments tasted the vapor and discovered a rich chemistry of salts, silica, and traces of organic compounds. This daring maneuver confirmed what many scientists had only dared to imagine, revealing that a vast, churning, salty ocean swirls just beneath the frozen shell, in direct contact with a rocky and geothermally heated core. The continuous and rhythmic eruption of these geysers provides a free, floating sample of an alien ocean, whispering secrets of a hidden abyssal realm where the essential ingredients for biology might just be stirring in the eternal dark. Plunging beneath the blindingly reflective surface of the tiger stripes, the environment transitions from a frozen, sunlit expanse into a realm of profound and unyielding darkness. Below the jagged fractures of the crust lies an imposing shell of solid ice, a protective barrier that shields the interior from the freezing vacuum of space and the harsh radiation of the outer solar system. Scientific measurements of the moon's subtle wobbles as it journeys along its path have revealed that this icy armor is not frozen solid all the way to the core, but rather floats freely above a vast and hidden body of water. This subterranean sea is a global ocean, wrapping completely around the rocky heart of the moon, stretching uninterrupted beneath the shifting glaciers of the southern pole and the ancient, heavily cratered plains of the north. The sheer volume of liquid concealed beneath this frozen carapace is staggering, representing an aquatic world that exists entirely without the familiar boundaries of continents or sunlit shores. In this silent abyss, there are no seasons, no shifting weather patterns driven by solar wind, only the eternal and heavy presence of a dark ocean resting quietly in the deep. Understanding how such a vast reservoir of liquid water can exist so incredibly far from the warming embrace of our sun requires us to look beyond the ice and focus on an intricate gravitational dance playing out in the Saturnian system. The secret to this enduring warmth lies in the moon's slightly elongated, oval-shaped orbit, a path that brings it closer to the massive gas giant and then pulls it farther away with every revolution. This constant fluctuation in distance is maintained by a delicate orbital resonance with a neighboring, slightly larger moon named Dione, whose gravitational influence continuously forces the smaller world into this eccentric path. As the tiny icy sphere travels through this uneven orbit, the immense and relentless gravitational pull of Saturn constantly shifts, squeezing and stretching the moon's interior with unimaginable force. This continuous kneading action creates a profound internal friction, a ceaseless grinding of rock against rock and ice against ice that generates a tremendous amount of thermal energy deep within the moon. The heat born from this celestial tug of war radiates outward from the rocky core, slowly permeating the thick layer of water and fighting back against the encroaching cold of the void. Without this constant tidal flexing, the ocean would have frozen solid billions of years ago, turning the moon into nothing more than a quiet, geologically dead sphere of ice suspended in the dark. Instead, the friction acts as a colossal, invisible furnace, gently warming the depths and maintaining a delicate thermal balance that allows liquid water to persist for eons in one of the most unlikely places in the solar system. The energy created by this gravitational stretching is not distributed evenly, concentrating heavily near the southern pole where the ice shell is remarkably thin and the tiger stripes glow with their mysterious internal heat. It is a beautiful and poetic mechanism where the simple geometry of planetary orbits and the invisible threads of gravity manifest as a life-sustaining warmth in the freezing depths of the outer system. As this internal heat gently warms the hidden ocean, it interacts deeply with the rocky core, creating an environment that is far from a sterile pool of melted ice. Over countless millennia, the warm water has continuously permeated the porous rock at the bottom of the sea, dissolving a complex array of minerals and carrying them upward into the dark, expansive waters. The result is a rich, salty brine, an ocean that possesses a chemical signature strikingly similar to the deep, alkaline waters found upon our own distant planet. Traces of sodium chloride, the very same salt that flavors the earthly seas, have been detected within the icy plumes erupting into space, carrying the whispered chemical secrets of the abyss up to the stars. This intricate mingling of water and rock transforms the subterranean ocean into a dynamic chemical soup, a place where the fundamental building blocks of complex molecules are constantly dissolved, transported, and recombined in the eternal dark. Within this vast, enclosed aquatic realm, silent and majestic ocean currents are constantly flowing, driven by the persistent temperature gradients between the warm rocky floor and the freezing icy ceiling. Plumes of heated water rise slowly from the deep, carrying dissolved minerals and gentle warmth upward through the crushing darkness until they meet the bottom of the frozen crust. As the water encounters the icy roof, it gradually cools, becoming denser and heavier before sinking back down toward the rocky core in a continuous, mesmerizing cycle of deep-sea convection. These slow-moving currents help to distribute the tidal heat throughout the global ocean, ensuring that the water remains liquid while also slowly sculpting the underside of the ice shell over millions of years. It is a slow, rhythmic heartbeat of circulation, a hidden aquatic ballet playing out in total obscurity, completely isolated from the scattered starlight that softly illuminates the frozen, heavily scarred surface far above. Descending through those slow, churning currents, we eventually reach the very bottom of the hidden ocean, arriving at the mysterious interface where the deep water finally meets the ancient, rocky core. Here, under the immense, crushing pressure of miles of water and the thick layer of surface ice, the landscape is devoid of any light, existing in a state of absolute, impenetrable blackness. The seafloor of this distant moon is not a smooth, solid boundary, but rather a fractured and highly porous expanse of silicates and minerals, shattered by the endless gravitational flexing of the moon's eccentric orbit. Water seeps deep into these fractures, traveling far below the ocean floor into the warm, grinding heart of the moon, where it is heated by the relentless friction of the tidal forces. This interaction between liquid water and warm rock at the bottom of a dark, alien ocean is one of the most fascinating and consequential environments ever discovered in our exploration of the solar system. The profound significance of this deep ocean boundary was revealed by tiny, almost imperceptible clues captured by spacecraft flying through the misty plumes, erupting high above the surface. Among the frozen spray, sensitive instruments detected the unmistakable presence of microscopic silica particles, tiny grains of sand that can only be forged under very specific and extraordinary conditions. For these delicate nanoparticles to form, liquid water must interact with rock at temperatures approaching nearly 200 degrees Fahrenheit, a level of heat that requires a localized, intense source of energy. The presence of these tiny grains of silica drifting in the rings of Saturn serves as irrefutable evidence that the ocean floor of the small moon is dotted with areas of intense, scalding heat. It paints a vivid picture of a geologically active seafloor where superheated water forcefully escapes the fractured rock, carrying newly forged minerals up into the vast, freezing expanse of the surrounding ocean. In these localized regions of intense heat, towering structures of deposited minerals rise from the rocky seabed, forming magnificent, twisting chimneys known as hydrothermal vents. Billowing clouds of dark, superheated water surge from these vents, violently mixing with the near-freezing temperatures of the surrounding abyssal sea in a chaotic and beautiful display of thermal energy. As the scorching fluid rushes outward, the dissolved minerals within it rapidly precipitate, falling out of the water to continually build and shape these towering spires in the silent dark. These hydrothermal fields create isolated oases of warmth and dynamic chemical activity, contrasting sharply with the cold, quiet expanse of the broader ocean that surrounds them. They are localized engines of transformation, places where the raw, mechanical energy of gravity is translated into intense heat and chemical complexity, hidden safely beneath miles of water and solid ice. The water expelled from these deep-sea chimneys is not only scalding hot, but also rich with a fascinating array of dissolved gases and complex molecules born from the interaction of water and hot rock. Scientists have detected significant amounts of molecular hydrogen within the erupting plumes, a highly reactive gas that serves as a powerful chemical fuel, continuously produced by the alteration of the rocky core. Alongside this hydrogen, traces of carbon dioxide and methane swirl within the venting fluids, completing a trifecta of ingredients that hold profound implications for the chemistry of the deep. In this dark, high-pressure environment, the constant supply of chemical energy provides a potential substitute for the sunlight that powers the surface of our own world. The venting fields represent a continuous, simmering cauldron of possibility, where the essential raw materials required for complex reactions are constantly stirred together in the warm, sheltering depths. Observing the silent, powerful activity of these alien hydrothermal vents draws an immediate and awe-inspiring parallel to the deepest, most unexplored trenches of our own oceans. On our home planet, similar volcanic chimneys rise from the dark seafloor, completely cut off from the warmth and light of the sun, yet they host rich, vibrant ecosystems that thrive solely on the chemical energy billowing from the earth. The realization that an identical environment exists right now, hidden beneath the frozen crust of a tiny moon nearly 1 billion miles away, profoundly expands our understanding of where complex chemistry might flourish. It forces us to redefine the boundaries of habitability, suggesting that the gentle, welcoming environments we once thought were unique to our world might actually be hidden away in the dark, icy corners of the cosmos. As we drift through the silent waters above these warm venting spires, we are left to ponder the magnificent resilience of energy and the extraordinary secrets that may still be waiting in the unlit depths. Leaving the localized warmth of the seafloor chimneys, the superheated fluid begins a long, slow ascent through the crushing weight of the global ocean. As this mineral-rich water pushes upward away from the rocky core, it gradually mixes with the frigid ambient currents, creating a gentle thermal updraft that carries the chemical secrets of the deep toward the frozen ceiling miles above. Entwined within these rising plumes are delicate, microscopic bubbles of gas, born from the furious reactions at the hydrothermal vents, slowly drifting upward through the absolute darkness of the abyss. This quiet journey takes months, perhaps even years, as the buoyant water navigates the unseen currents and sweeping tides of the subterranean sea, carrying with it the raw materials forged in the fires of the deep. Along this vertical migration, the chemistry of the water continues to evolve, as the profound pressures and shifting temperatures encourage dissolved elements to bond, separate, and recombine in a continuous, invisible dance. The water acts as a protective, nurturing envelope, shielding these newly formed compounds from the harsh radiation of space and allowing them to persist in the quiet sanctuary of the deep ocean. Among the materials carried upward on these gentle currents are incredibly complex carbon-based structures, heavy organic molecules that have profoundly altered our understanding of this distant frozen world. When robotic instruments sampled the mist erupting from the moon, they expected to find simple compounds, but were instead astonished to detect massive organic macromolecules consisting of hundreds of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen atoms. These intricate chemical chains are far heavier and more complex than anything previously imagined to exist in the outer solar system, representing the advanced building blocks necessary for intricate chemistry. Scientists believe these heavy organics are forged in the scorching, highly pressurized environment of the seafloor vents, where the continuous supply of chemical energy drives simple molecules to link together into ever-growing arrangements. As these dense molecular chains are swept up by the rising thermal currents, they embark on an epic vertical journey, floating suspended in the dark water as they slowly drift away from the geologic engines that created them. The discovery of such advanced carbon chemistry completely rewrites the story of the outer planets, proving that even in the deepest freeze, a warm and churning ocean can act as a colossal chemical laboratory. As the rising water approaches the underside of the massive ice shell, a fascinating physical process begins to unfold at the boundary, where the liquid ocean meets the solid, frozen crust. The tiny gas bubbles that have been slowly rising from the seafloor act like microscopic elevators, gathering the heavy organic molecules along their surface as they ascend through the dark waters. When these bubbles finally reach the icy ceiling, they congregate in a thin, chemically rich film that coats the inverted landscape of the subterranean ocean roof, a hidden layer where the water is thick with concentrated material. Here, the ocean does not simply transition cleanly into ice, but instead forms a slushy, dynamic zone where the freezing process is constantly interrupted by the gentle heat radiating from the deep currents below. This boundary layer is a place of profound stillness, a dark and quiet frontier where the complex molecules wait in a state of suspended animation, pressed against the thick icy armor that separates their aquatic world from the void. The sheer concentration of carbon compounds at this interface makes it one of the most chemically vibrant locations ever studied, a hidden reservoir waiting just beneath the fractured crust of the southern pole. The existence of this organic-rich layer perfectly sets the stage for the dramatic escape of material through the deep fissures that scar the moon's surface, providing a pathway from the ocean sealing to the stars. When the gravitational forces of the gas giant pull and flex the ice shell, the deep fractures of the tiger stripes grind and shift, occasionally exposing the underlying liquid directly to the absolute vacuum of space. Because there is no atmospheric pressure on the surface of the moon, the sudden exposure causes the water at the top of the ocean to violently boil and vaporize, expanding outward with immense force. As the water turns instantly into vapor, it shatters the surrounding slush, encapsulating the heavy organic molecules and microscopic grains of rock within tiny, protective shells of rapid freezing ice. This sudden transition from a dark ocean to the freezing expanse happens in a fraction of a second, launching the preserved chemistry of the deep upward through the icy canyons. It is an extraordinary mechanism of cosmic transport, a natural elevator that plucks the complex secrets of the hidden seafloor and propels them into the light, offering an unprecedented glimpse into the unseen depths. Directing our focus back to the brilliant, frozen surface of the southern hemisphere, the sheer mechanics of these massive eruptions offer a mesmerizing display of planetary physics in motion. The tiger stripes are not simply static cracks in the ice, but rather a dynamic, breathing network of 4 prominent parallel trenches that continuously respond to the immense gravitational presence of the gas giant. As the tiny moon travels along its elliptical orbit, the varying distance from Saturn causes the immense tidal stresses to shift direction, stretching and compressing the frozen crust in a rhythmic, cyclical pattern. When the moon reaches the farthest point in its orbit, the tension across the southern pole is at its maximum, causing the deep canyons to literally pull apart and open wider to the vacuum of space. It is during this phase of maximum tension that the geysers roar with their greatest intensity, allowing massive volumes of ocean water to flash freeze and erupt violently from the exposed depths. Conversely, as the moon swings closer to the massive planet, the gravitational squeeze forces the icy walls of the fissures to grind back together, partially choking off the flow of vapor and reducing the plumes to a gentle, shimmering mist. This continuous opening and closing of the massive icy jaws generates an extraordinary amount of localized heat right at the surface, driven by the relentless friction of massive plates rubbing against one another. The grinding of the ice walls prevents the water within the shallowest parts of the fractures from freezing completely solid, maintaining a precarious liquid pathway that connects the hidden ocean directly to the void. Because this environment is devoid of any atmosphere, there is no sound to accompany this colossal geologic activity, creating a surreal juxtaposition of violent mechanical forces playing out in absolute, unwavering silence. The vapor shoots upward through these narrow, shifting vents at supersonic speeds, accelerating incredibly fast as it expands into the frictionless environment of deep space, unhindered by air resistance. Rather than emerging as a single spout, the eruptions take the form of brilliant, towering curtains of frost, composed of dozens of individual jets that merge together along the entire length of the glowing scars. These sweeping walls of crystalline vapor stretch for miles into the dark, catching the pale, distant sunlight and creating an ethereal, ghostly luminescence that hovers perpetually above the jagged terrain of the pole. While the lightest and most energetic particles of this frozen spray achieve escape velocity to join the sweeping rings of the host planet, the vast majority of the erupted material faces a different destiny. The heavier grains of ice, laden with the complex organic molecules and microscopic rock fragments gathered from the deep, are eventually overpowered by the moon's faint but persistent gravitational pull. Following graceful, sweeping parabolic arcs high above the surface, these heavier particles slow their ascent before beginning a long, gentle descent back toward the brilliant white landscape from which they came. Because the moon is incredibly small and its gravity is exceedingly weak, this falling material drifts downward with agonizing slowness, creating a continuous, silent blizzard of microscopic ice crystals raining from the dark sky. This endless cosmic snowfall blankets the entire southern hemisphere in a layer of incredibly fine, pristine powder, burying the ancient features and smoothing the rugged terrain into soft, rolling plains of undisturbed white. It is this perpetual covering of fresh snow that gives the moon its astonishingly high reflectivity, constantly resurfacing the landscape and erasing the scars of cosmic impacts that mar the older regions of the north. Drifting across this surreal environment reveals a landscape shaped entirely by the slow, continuous accumulation of ocean spray falling from the black canvas of space. The snow here is not like the heavy, wet flakes that fall upon earthly mountains, but rather a microscopic, crystalline dust, so fine and dry that it behaves almost like a fluid in the low gravity. Descending softly through the vacuum, the snow settles over the towering ridges that border the tiger stripes, forming deep, pristine drifts that perfectly preserve the sweeping contours of the shifting ice below. Scientific observations suggest that in some places near the deepest trenches, this layer of oceanic snow may be hundreds of feet thick, representing millions of years of continuous, silent eruptions from the hidden abyss. Hovering above these softly glowing plains, bathed in the gentle downfall of frozen ocean mist, one is profoundly humbled by the realization that the ground is actively exhaling the secrets of an alien sea. It is a quiet, frozen wonderland born entirely from the restless energy of the deep, a place where the churning warmth of a subterranean world constantly paints the surface in the purest, blinding white. As we shift our gaze away from the gentle, perpetual snowfall blanketing the southern pole, we follow the path of those swifter, lighter particles that manage to break completely free from the moon's weak gravitational embrace. Escaping the icy surface, these microscopic grains of frozen water and fine dust do not simply vanish into the endless void, but are instead captured by the immense, sweeping gravitational well of the massive gas giant nearby. This continuous, silent exhalation from the subterranean ocean is the sole architect of one of the most expansive and ethereal structures in the entire solar system, known simply as the E-ring. Stretching across hundreds of thousands of miles of empty space, this colossal band of frost is so unimaginably wide that it could comfortably encapsulate dozens of earthly worlds within its gently glowing boundaries. It is a breathtaking testament to the enduring power of the small moon, demonstrating how a tiny, fractured sphere can project its hidden aquatic essence across massive cosmic distances. Unlike the inner bands of the giant planet, which are densely packed with shimmering chunks of rock and large icy boulders that reflect brilliant sunlight, this outer ring is incredibly diffuse, and ghostly in its nature. If a traveler were floating gently within its expansive borders, the environment would seem entirely empty, as the individual particles of ice are microscopic and separated by vast distances of absolute nothingness. Yet, when observed from afar and softly backlit by the distant, fading rays of the sun, this sparse collection of frozen mist catches the light to reveal a delicate, ethereal halo glowing with a subtle, pale blue luminescence. This faint wash of color is a direct result of the incredibly uniform size of the erupting ice crystals, which scatter the shorter, bluish wavelengths of sunlight far more efficiently than the heavier colors of the spectrum. The resulting visual is a sweeping, tranquil ocean of light suspended in the vacuum, a gentle cosmic fog that quietly envelops several of the other surrounding moons in its frosty, expansive embrace. The relationship between the tiny, geologically active moon and this colossal ring is a beautiful, continuous cycle of cosmic creation and sweeping interaction that has persisted for countless millennia. Because the moon resides deep within the very ring it constantly produces, it is forever destined to travel through the heart of its own frozen, exhaled breath as it completes its fast-paced orbit around the gas giant. Plowing through the faint blue mist at thousands of miles per hour, the moon acts as a sweeping celestial mechanism, gently gathering up the older, wandering ice particles along its leading hemisphere, while simultaneously erupting fresh material from its southern pole. This delicate balance of sweeping up old frost and venting new vapor ensures that the sweeping ring remains a permanent, yet constantly refreshing feature of the planetary system, never truly dissipating into the darker, colder regions of deep space. It is an extraordinary realization that without the continuous, rhythmic heartbeat of the hidden warm ocean, this magnificent, glowing structure would slowly fade away and vanish entirely from the long shadows of the giant planet. Beyond the physical accumulation of frozen water crystals, the towering geysers also initiate a fascinating, invisible interaction with the overwhelming magnetic presence of the host planet that dominates this region of space. The colossal, sweeping magnetic field of the gas giant rotates incredibly fast, constantly overtaking the tiny moon and sweeping relentlessly past the plumes of newly erupted vapor ascending from the tiger stripes. As this invisible, energetic tide washes over the atmospheric spray, it continuously bombards the delicate water molecules with a harsh, relentless wind of highly energetic solar particles and radiation. This invisible collision violently strips the negatively charged electrons away from the neutral water molecules, instantly transforming the gentle ocean mist into a swirling, electrically charged state of matter, known to scientists as plasma. The sudden creation of these heavy ionized particles fundamentally alters the local space environment, bridging the gap between physical geology and the invisible, humming forces of planetary magnetism. Once the erupted material is transformed into this highly energized plasma, it is immediately trapped by the sweeping, invisible lines of the gas giant's magnetic field, unable to simply drift away into the broader solar system. This captured material forms a massive, invisible donut-shaped cloud of energized particles, known as a plasma torus, which completely encircles the host planet and shares the same orbital path as the tiny, icy moon. This electrically active region hums with a profound, unseen power, generating complex currents and producing faint, rhythmic radio emissions that sing a quiet, continuous song into the eternal vacuum of deep space. The heavy ions gathered from the subterranean sea actually weigh down the immense magnetic field, bending the invisible lines of force and slightly altering the rotation of the surrounding magnetic environment. It is a stunning, awe-inspiring realization that the gentle, quiet ocean spray of a tiny, frozen world possesses the profound power to shape and manipulate the colossal magnetic architecture of an entire planetary system. Our profound, detailed understanding of this distant, watery realm and its immense influence on the surrounding cosmic environment was not born from simple, distant observations through earthly telescopes. Instead, this breathtaking knowledge was brought to us by a remarkable mechanical emissary, a robotic explorer sent from our own warm, blue world to wander the freezing, unexplored frontiers of the outer solar system. For over a decade, the Cassini spacecraft drifted gracefully through the rings and moons of the gas giant, acting as our silent, steadfast eyes in the dark, and completely revolutionizing our perspective of these distant, frozen spheres. When this resilient probe first arrived in the quiet, shadowed neighborhood of the planetary rings, the source of the ghostly outer mist and the blinding, pristine brightness of the tiny moon were profound mysteries waiting patiently to be unraveled. The scientific minds back on our home world could only guess at the forces shaping this bright little marble, unaware of the warm, dynamic ocean waiting to rewrite the textbooks of planetary science. Guided by an insatiable human curiosity and a masterpiece of orbital engineering, the spacecraft was commanded to alter its long, looping path and perform a series of incredibly daring, sweeping maneuvers. Navigating the complex gravitational currents of the planetary system, the probe swooped remarkably close to the fractured southern pole, skimming just a few dozen miles above the towering ridges and glowing canyons of the Tiger Stripes. In an astonishing display of precision and cosmic bravery, the robotic explorer plunged headlong into the billowing, freezing curtains of vapor that were continuously erupting outward into the vacuum of space. Traveling at tens of thousands of miles per hour, the spacecraft flew completely blind through the dense, crystalline fog, trusting its gold-colored shielding to withstand the relentless impacts of microscopic ice grains, while its sensitive instruments eagerly collected the secrets of the deep. It was a fleeting, breathtaking embrace between human ingenuity and alien geology, a quiet intersection of paths spanning 1 billion miles of empty, silent space. During these dramatic, sweeping passes right through the heart of the geysers, the advanced scientific instruments on board the probe did not just take pictures, but literally tasted the ocean spray in real time. Analyzing the microscopic debris slamming into its detectors, the spacecraft meticulously documented the chemical makeup of the icy fog, uncovering a profound complexity that no one had ever dared to anticipate. It was during these daring dives that the mechanical emissary captured the undeniable signatures of dissolved salts, the tiny grains of forged silica, and the heavy, intricate organic molecules whispering the long-held secrets of the hidden hydrothermal vents. These brief, exhilarating moments of direct contact allowed scientists situated back on our distant world to piece together the extraordinary, complex puzzle of the subterranean sea without ever having to drill through the miles of solid, protective surface ice. The vapor itself provided a free, continuous sample of the hidden abyss, generously offering up the chemical truth of a world previously thought to be entirely frozen and geologically dead. The wealth of data quietly beamed back across the solar system from these plunging flights fundamentally altered the entire trajectory of planetary science and our profound search for habitable environments beyond our home. The revelations confirmed that this tiny, unassuming sphere possessed all the essential foundational ingredients that are widely considered necessary to support complex biological chemistry as we currently understand it. Deep beneath the blinding white snow, we found a vast, stable source of liquid water, an abundance of crucial chemical building blocks, and a continuous, reliable supply of thermal energy radiating steadily from the grinding, rocky core. While we do not yet know if anything stirs or swims within those dark, warm currents flowing over the deep-sea chimneys, the mere existence of such a perfect, sheltering environment in the freezing outer system fills the human imagination with boundless wonder. It completely redefines the boundaries of where we might look for the quiet spark of biology, proving that welcoming oceans can thrive in the most unlikely, heavily shadowed corners of the cosmic neighborhood. Now that faithful, brilliant robotic explorer is gone, having completed its long journey with a final, dramatic plunge into the crushing atmosphere of the gas giant, a selfless maneuver designed to protect the pristine, alien environments it worked so hard to discover. The tiny, brilliant moon has returned to its ancient, uninterrupted silence, drifting gracefully along its eccentric path and continuing its continuous, majestic exhalations into the cold, empty void. The deep canyons of the southern pole continue to flex and glow. The hidden ocean continues to churn against the warm rock, and the heavy organic molecules continue their slow, upward journey toward the fractured ice. Yet the profound knowledge gathered during those brave, plunging flights remains firmly with us, transforming what was once just a small, bright point of light into a dynamic, whispering ocean world. It forever calls to our deeply rooted curiosity, a shimmering beacon in the dark that gently reminds us of the astonishing, hidden vitality waiting patiently to be discovered in the endless, silent beauty of the cosmos. Looking ahead to the unfolding chapters of our cosmic exploration, the profound discoveries made by past mechanical emissaries have set the stage for an even more ambitious return to this glittering realm. Engineers and dreamers scattered across our warm, terrestrial home are already sketching the blueprints for the next generation of robotic explorers, envisioning machines specifically designed to interact directly with the hidden depths. These future craft will not simply fly swiftly through the towering plumes of vapor, but will instead seek to gently touch the pristine, snow-covered surface of the southern hemisphere. Arriving with silent grace, a lander would settle upon the deep drifts of microscopic ice crystals, anchoring itself against the gentle, continuous fallout from the sky above. From this stationary vantage point upon the fractured crust, the instruments would quietly listen to the deep, resonant vibrations echoing from the shifting ice and the roaring geysers miles below. It would be a solitary vigil on a silent world, with the massive, majestic rings of the gas giant sweeping continuously across the dark canvas of the sky, serving as a silent witness to the profound activity stirring deep within the moon. Venturing beyond the brilliant surface, the ultimate ambition of planetary scientists is to breach the formidable icy armor and plunge directly into the dark, uncharted waters of the subterranean sea. Conceptual designs envision a sophisticated, heat-generating probe that would slowly melt its way down through the heavily fractured crust, slipping quietly beneath the blinding white plains surrounding the glowing canyons. This descent would be an agonizingly slow and deliberate journey, trading the faint, distant starlight for a surrounding envelope of ancient, solid ice that has isolated the ocean for billions of years. As the mechanical diver burrows deeper into the frozen shell, the immense pressures and shifting fault lines would constantly threaten to crush its delicate outer casing, demanding extraordinary engineering to to survive the vertical passage. The journey through the ice could take months of patient, relentless melting, descending mile by mile, until the rigid, crystalline structure finally gives way to the vast, fluid expanse of the global ocean. At that defining moment, human technology would enter a completely alien aquatic environment, slipping free from the ice to float suspended in a pitch-black sea, located nearly 1 billion miles from our home planet. Once immersed in the gentle, hidden currents of the abyssal realm, this robotic pioneer would deploy entirely new methods of navigation to explore the lightless depths surrounding the ancient rocky core. Resembling an aquatic serpent or a sleek metallic fish, the explorer would swim gracefully through the dark water, guided not by sunlight, but by sensitive sonars and chemical sensors tasting the ancient brine. Its primary objective would be to follow the gentle thermal updrafts, tracing the warming water downward toward the rugged, mineral-rich seafloor, where the towering hydrothermal vents release their immense energy. Gliding slowly just above the fractured rocky seabed, the machine would illuminate the dark, twisting chimneys with its artificial lights, revealing a landscape that has never known the gentle touch of a star. In this hidden oasis of warmth and swirling chemical complexity, the instruments would meticulously search for any subtle signs of movement or intricate structures that might suggest the presence of a burgeoning, independent biology. It is a breathtaking vision of discovery, mapping the contours of an alien ocean floor while quietly hoping to find the delicate, organizing forces of complex chemistry stirring in the eternal dark. To truly understand the profound secrets held within these warm, venting waters, the descending explorer would need to look far beyond the simple presence of carbon and search for specific, elegant molecular architectures. Biological systems, as we understand them, display a profound preference for building complex molecules with a distinct, uniform shape, much like human hands that are perfectly mirrored, but cannot be exactly superimposed upon one another. If the delicate instruments were to sample the deep water and find an overwhelming abundance of molecules twisting exclusively in one direction, it would serve as a powerful, unmistakable whisper of biological organization. Such an elegant, non-random arrangement of matter cannot easily be produced by the chaotic, lifeless grinding of rocks and heat, pointing instead to a sophisticated, self-replicating chemistry, actively maintaining order in the abyss. Discovering this specific chemical signature would profoundly shift our place in the universe, proving that the quiet spark of complex organization can ignite completely independently in the dark, sheltered corners of a frozen world. It is a search for the hidden, intricate music of existence, listening for the rhythmic, organized patterns of chemistry that separate a sterile, empty sea from a thriving, dynamic ocean. The sweeping revelations gathered from this tiny, icy sphere have completely shattered the long-standing, traditional rules that once governed our understanding of where to look for welcoming environments in the cosmos. For generations, the scientific minds of our world believed that liquid water, and by extension the delicate chemistry required for complex development, could only exist within a narrow, privileged band of space surrounding a warm star. This delicate region, often referred to as the habitable zone, was thought to be entirely dependent on the radiant heat of a sun, leaving the outer reaches of a planetary system completely barren and permanently frozen. Yet, the continuous, majestic eruptions from the southern pole of the small moon have forcefully demonstrated that gravity itself can act as a profound, invisible engine of warmth in the deepest cosmic shadows. By generating immense internal friction through constant orbital flexing, celestial bodies can maintain vast, hidden reservoirs of liquid water far beyond the reach of any comforting solar rays, fundamentally rewriting the textbooks of planetary science. This incredible realization suggests that the universe possesses countless hidden mechanisms to nurture and sustain aquatic environments, operating quietly in the dark, frozen frontiers where we previously thought no liquid could ever survive. Recognizing the sheer power of this internal, gravitational heating instantly forces us to cast our gaze outward and reconsider the countless other frozen spheres wandering the vast expanse of our own planetary neighborhood. The massive, swirling gas giants occupying the outer system are accompanied by sprawling families of icy moons, many of which are locked in similar, eccentric orbits that constantly squeeze and stretch their rocky interiors. Beneath the heavily cratered, frozen surfaces of these distant wanderers, entirely new classes of subterranean oceans are likely waiting to be discovered, each possessing its own unique chemical makeup and geothermal heartbeat. Some of these hidden seas might be trapped beneath dozens of miles of impenetrable ice, completely sealed away from the vacuum of space, while others might interact dynamically with their fractured crusts in a continuous display of geologic power. The solar system, once viewed as a dry, rocky inner zone surrounded by sterile, frozen wastelands, is rapidly transforming into a remarkable archipelago of hidden ocean worlds, each harboring vast, uncharted volumes of liquid water. We are slowly waking up to the staggering realization that the volume of liquid locked away in these dark, distant abyssal realms completely dwarfs the shallow, sunlit oceans covering the surface of our own blue planet. Expanding our perspective even further, the existence of these warm, hidden seas holds breathtaking implications for the billions of other planetary systems scattered across the sweeping, majestic spiral arms of our galaxy. If the delicate gravitational dance between a giant planet and a tiny moon can so easily maintain a thriving ocean here, it is a cosmic certainty that this elegant mechanism is repeating itself around countless other distant stars. Even more profoundly, this internal source of energy means that entire planetary systems could be violently ejected from their host stars, wandering the freezing, absolute void of interstellar space, yet still harbor warm, liquid oceans beneath thick, insulating shells of ice. A world completely unmoored from the light of a sun, drifting eternally in the pitch-black night between star systems, could still possess a dynamic, churning seafloor teeming with complex chemistry and geothermal warmth. The concept of an entirely dark, wandering oasis challenges the very limits of our imagination, suggesting that the gentle, sheltering embrace of an ocean might be one of the most common and resilient environments in the entire universe. It transforms the intimidating, empty darkness of the cosmos into a vast, hidden network of quiet sanctuaries, gently waiting beneath their frozen, protective shields. Embracing this incredibly vast and watery vision of the universe offers a deeply comforting counterpoint to the traditional view of a cold, empty, and profoundly lonely cosmic landscape stretching out to infinity. Rather than being an isolated, miraculous anomaly, where the exact balance of sunlight and atmosphere allowed water to pool on the surface, our earthly home is simply the most visible manifestation of a universal, driving phenomenon. The underlying physics of the cosmos actively conspire to create and maintain fluid, dynamic environments wherever gravity and ice intertwine, ensuring that the essential ingredients for complex chemistry are generously scattered across the stars. When we look up at the night sky, we are no longer just looking at a collection of burning, distant suns and barren, dead rocks floating endlessly in an indifferent, silent void. Instead, we are gazing upon a sweeping celestial tapestry woven with thousands, perhaps millions, of hidden, quiet oceans, each slowly turning in the dark, warmed by the gentle, invisible pull of gravity. It is a profoundly peaceful realization, knowing that the silent depths of space are actually brimming with unseen waters, harboring unimaginable secrets, and waiting patiently for the day when we finally drift far enough to discover them. Contemplating the vast, hidden ocean of this tiny moon requires us to stretch our understanding not just across billions of miles of empty space, but also across the staggering, unfathomable expanses of cosmic time. The rhythmic, continuous dance between the fractured sphere and the massive gas giant is not a recent development, but rather an ancient, enduring choreography that has been playing out in the dark for countless eons. Planetary physicists, poring over the wealth of data sent back from our mechanical emissary, believe that this subterranean sea has remained liquid for tens, perhaps even hundreds of millions of years, sustained entirely by that relentless gravitational friction. This profound longevity is absolutely crucial because the intricate, delicate chemical reactions required to weave simple carbon molecules into the complex tapestries of biology demand an enormous amount of uninterrupted, patient time to unfold. An ocean that freezes solid every few millennia could never foster the slow, methodical progression of advanced chemistry, making the enduring, ancient warmth of this hidden abyss one of its most remarkable and vital characteristics. Tracing the very origins of this watery world transports the imagination back to the chaotic, swirling nebula of gas and dust that eventually collapsed to form our entire planetary neighborhood over 4 billion years ago. The water molecules that currently surge from the glowing vents at the southern pole were forged in the freezing outskirts of that primordial cloud, drifting as microscopic grains of frost before slowly clumping together into a loose, icy sphere. For a significant portion of its early history, the moon may have been entirely frozen solid, a quiet, dormant marble wandering through the shadows until the gentle, invisible tug of a neighboring moon locked it into its current, eccentric orbit. This subtle shift in celestial mechanics was the spark that awakened the dormant interior, initiating the slow, agonizingly gradual melting of the deep ice and giving birth to the churning, global ocean that exists today. It is a beautiful reminder that the solar system is not a finished, static portrait, but rather an unfolding, majestic narrative where seemingly dead worlds can suddenly awaken and bloom with profound internal energy. Observing the massive, glowing fissures that carve through the southern hemisphere, it is tempting to view these towering ice canyons as permanent, unyielding features etched forever into the frozen face of the moon. Yet, the reality of this dynamic, ocean-bearing world is far more fluid, as the pristine ice shell is constantly, slowly flowing, cracking, and shifting over the spanning epochs of geological time. The tiger stripes that currently vent such massive volumes of vapor will not exist forever, for the relentless accumulation of falling snow and the slow, creeping movement of the glaciers will eventually seal these glowing scars completely shut. As the ancient fractures gradually heal and disappear under layers of fresh white powder, new weaknesses will inevitably form in the shifting crust, ripping open to create fresh pathways for the deep ocean to once again exhale into the void. This continuous, slow-motion cycle of breaking and mending ensures that the face of the moon is entirely ephemeral, a living, breathing surface that constantly reshapes itself in response to the warm, restless tide moving in the dark below. Understanding this impermanent, shifting nature of the icy crust highlights a deeply humbling reality regarding our own fleeting moment of observation within the grand, sweeping timeline of the surrounding universe. The spectacular, towering fountains of frost that currently feed the sweeping rings of the host planet are part of an ongoing, transient phase, a beautiful geological window that happens to perfectly align with the dawn of human cosmic exploration. If we had evolved to look up at the stars a few 100 million years earlier, or perhaps a few epochs further into the future, we might have found a perfectly smooth, silent sphere, showing absolutely no outward signs of the vibrant sea hidden beneath. We are profoundly fortunate to exist in the exact sliver of cosmic time when this tiny world is actively revealing its deepest secrets, proudly broadcasting its watery nature across the solar system for our wandering robotic eyes to see. It fills the heart with a quiet, reverent awe to realize that we are standing witness to a magnificent, temporary alignment of orbital mechanics and internal warmth that brings a hidden ocean to the very edge of the endless night. Reflecting on this ancient, churning sea forces us to confront the profound patience of the cosmos, where the slow grinding of rock and the gentle flow of thermal energy play out over timescales that completely dwarf the entirety of human existence. The microscopic grains of silica and heavy organic molecules that drift upward through the dark, cold water are participants in a planetary alchemy that requires millions of orbits to slowly mature and evolve into something greater. As we quietly observe this distant, watery sanctuary, we're looking at a living laboratory of deep time, a place where the universe is methodically combining the fundamental elements of creation, far away from the blinding light of any star. The moon stands as a silent, glowing monument to the enduring resilience of chemistry and the quiet, persistent forces that shape the architecture of reality long after the fires of planetary formation have faded away. It gently reassures us that the cosmos is never truly still, but rather constantly humming with a slow, purposeful energy that works patiently in the shadows, slowly turning the wheel of existence in the deep, freezing waters of the outer dark. As our long, drifting journey reaches its quiet culmination, we begin to slowly pull away from the brilliant, snow-covered surface of this magnificent little moon, leaving the towering curtains of frost to their endless, silent eruptions. The deep, glowing canyons of the southern pole gradually shrink into a singular, radiant point of pale light, merging once again with the sweeping, majestic architecture of the massive planetary rings that encircle the distant gas giant. Retreating back into the vast, open expanse of the outer solar system, the incredible scale of the freezing void washes over us, yet it no longer feels like an intimidating, empty expanse of unforgiving darkness. The profound knowledge we carry back from the icy depth has forever transformed the surrounding shadows, revealing that the night is secretly teeming with hidden sanctuaries, warm ocean currents, and the gentle, humming forces of celestial mechanics. We leave behind a world that perfectly embodies the astonishing, hidden vitality of the universe, a tiny, glowing pearl suspended in the deep that holds the profound promise of chemistry and warmth in the very heart of the absolute cold. Drifting backward through the sweeping cosmic ocean, the scattered light of the distant sun gently illuminates the long, quiet path that leads back toward the familiar shores of our own rocky, blue planet. It is a deeply comforting realization to know that the very same ancient, vital ingredients that flow through our own earthly rivers and oceans are also swirling in the dark, pressurized depths nearly 1 billion miles away. The water that sustains every living thing we have ever known is not a localized anomaly, but a universal shared heritage, an ancient thread of ice and vapor that weaves its way through the intricate fabric of the entire galaxy. We are intimately, physically connected to those distant hydrothermal vents and the heavy, organic molecules rising through the crushing dark, bound together by the universal laws of chemistry and the patient, enduring flow of cosmic time. Knowing that the universe naturally conspires to create and protect these gentle, watery havens offers a profound sense of peace, a quiet reassurance that we are part of a cosmos that is inherently nurturing and infinitely resilient. Letting go of the waking world, the mind is free to wander along those invisible, sweeping magnetic currents, slowly tracing the delicate, frosty outline of the outer rings as they turn endlessly in the silent dark. The slow, rhythmic flexing of the planetary crust, the gentle thermal updrafts rising from the rocky core, and the continuous, soft snowfall upon the blinding white plains all merge into a singular, incredibly soothing lullaby of the spheres. There is no urgency in this distant, frozen realm, only the patient, eternal movement of water and ice, quietly sustaining a hidden universe of possibility beneath a thick, sheltering armor of frost. As the bright spark of the tiny moon finally fades into the surrounding velvet blackness of deep space, the calm, enduring silence of the cosmos gently wraps around you, offering a perfect, undisturbed sanctuary for rest. May your thoughts drift as gracefully as the microscopic ice crystals falling softly through the void, and may you find deep, restoring peace in the endless, beautiful quiet of the long cosmic night.